The moon hid behind thick clouds as Talia crouched at the edge of the forest, mud caking her knees, the sharp scent of blood clinging to her like shame. Every breath scraped her lungs. Her ribs ached, probably cracked from the last blow Alpha Reed gave her when she refused to kneel. Again, she hadn't meant to run tonight. She didn't even know where to go. But when the beta tried to drag her to the breeding den again, this time with a drunken leer instead of orders, something inside her snapped. She'd clawed his face open, left him howling, then ran like hell. Now, her heart pounded in rhythm with her bare, bleeding feet as she sprinted into the city lights beyond the tree line. 3 hours later, her legs barely worked. Talia stumbled into an alley between a shuttered bookstore and a nightclub pulsing with bass. Her stomach clawed at itself. Her wolf whimpered in her mind, hungry, hurt, hunted. She curled behind a dumpster, arms hugging her thin body. "Don't die here," she whispered. "You made it out. You did. Don't die now." But as her eyes closed and darkness crept in, she feared that freedom, like everything else in her life, was just another cruel lie. Kellan Dray never liked the city. Too noisy. Too many scents clashing. Too many lies. He adjusted his baseball cap as he walked past the neon-lit bar on 7th. He looked like a regular guy, tall, muscled, carrying a toolbox in one hand, but every step he took was calculated. He wasn't here for repairs. He was hunting. "Another rogue Omega in the shelter district," came the voice in his earpiece. It was Dax, his beta, posing as a city cop. Female, young, dirty, looks like she ran hard. Kellan's wolf growled low, not because of the rogue, because of how she was described. Where? Near 12th and Vine. Might be hiding out. Security cam caught her stealing from a convenience store. Kellan sighed. "Tell the council to back off. I'll find her." "You sure you wanna?" "Last one bit you." "Yeah," Kellan muttered, but I didn't bite back. 10 minutes later he spotted her. Thin, filthy, wrapped in an oversized hoodie that still showed bruises at the neck. She was picking through a trash bin behind a Chinese takeout joint, and her scent. Gods. That scent. He froze. His wolf pressed forward like a beast straining at a chain, possessive, alert, agitated. Kellan stepped back into the shadows, trying to breathe through it. The scent of jasmine, rain, and blood. She wasn't just some frightened rogue. She was something else. Talia's fingers trembled as she unwrapped a half-eaten egg roll from the trash. It was disgusting, but her stomach didn't care. A soft click of a bottle cap made her jolt. She turned, ready to bolt, but paused. A water bottle landed near her feet. She looked up. A man stood at the edge of the alley, face unreadable, hat shadowing his eyes. He didn't come closer. "You look like hell," he said. Talia bared her teeth. "Thanks. You look like a walking cop, so we're even." Kellan raised an eyebrow. "That a compliment?" She snatched the bottle and sniffed it. Clean. "Why are you helping me?" He shrugged. "Wasn't planning to. Then you looked up." She blinked. "What?" "Your eyes." He shoved his hands in his jacket pockets. "Most rogues look away. You didn't. You stared me down like you had nothing left to lose." She did. She had absolutely nothing. "And your scent," he added lowly. "It's—" He didn't finish. Talia's eyes narrowed. "You smell like an alpha." Kellan didn't deny it. Her breath hitched. She backed away. "Stay away from me." "I'm not here to hurt you." She gave a bitter laugh. "That's what they said too." He didn't follow when she ran. She bolted down the alley and melted into the night. But Kellan didn't chase. He stayed rooted, replaying the moment she looked up at him, bruised, starving, and still proud. "Her scent did something to you?" Dax asked through the comm. "Yes." "That bad?" Kellan rubbed his temples. That familiar. Talia curled in a stairwell 2 blocks over, watching every shadow. The alpha hadn't chased her. Strange. They always chased. But something about him stuck with her. That look in his eyes. Was it pity? No. It was rage. Not at her. For her. She didn't know what to do with that. Her wolf stirred, ears twitching. Confused. Not enemy, it said. Smells like home. Talia squeezed her eyes shut. Don't be stupid. Morning brought no relief. Talia was spotted sleeping near a soup kitchen and dragged inside by a gruff volunteer named Margot. She was given a cot, a change of clothes, and stale oatmeal. The shelter was packed, mostly humans. A few wolves who kept their heads down. Talia did the same, but it didn't matter. 2 hours in, she caught the eye of a lanky wolf named Grimes, who reeked of cheap cologne and alpha ambition. Hey, sweetheart, he drawled. Haven't seen you before. You smell like fresh meat, she ignored him. He sat next to her anyway. You alone? He asked, too softly. Before she could answer, someone else answered for her. No, said Kellan, stepping into the room like he owned it. He locked eyes with Grimes. She's not. Grimes stood, shoulders twitching. Who the hell are you? Kellan smiled. The guy who'll rip your spine out if you don't back away. The room went still. Grimes backed off fast. Talia stared at Kellan. Why are you here? He walked toward her, slow and deliberate. Because you looked up. Kellan didn't take his eyes off Talia, not even when the other wolves in the shelter glared at him for disrupting the fragile balance. You shouldn't be here, she muttered under her breath as he sat across from her at the long table in the shelter's cafeteria. Her spoon hovered over her now cold oatmeal. He leaned forward, voice low. Neither should you. I didn't have a choice. I know. His eyes lingered on the bruises lining her neck. He could see the faded mark of a chokehold. Rage clawed at his ribs. Talia glanced at him. Why are you really here? Officially. Rogue containment. He studied her face. Unofficially. Making sure a broken wolf doesn't get eaten alive by the next predator, with a fake smile. You think I'm broken? No, Kellan said. But you look like hell. She snorted. That's your second time saying that. Then maybe eat something before I say it a third. His voice was gruff, but she noticed the way he slid the untouched fruit from his tray to hers. Not an alpha command. Not an order. Just instinct. Her wolf stirred again. Curious, restless. She pushed the fruit back toward him. I don't owe you anything. You're right, he said, and stood. But that doesn't mean I'm walking away. That night, Kellan parked his motorcycle 2 blocks away and kept watch from the rooftop across from the shelter. Dax's voice crackled in the earpiece. You're watching her sleep now, making sure she makes it to the morning. You getting soft? On me, Dray. She's not like the others, Kellan said, jaw clenched. Dax paused. You mean she didn't beg for mercy? No, she didn't ask for anything. Inside the shelter, Talia stared at the cracked ceiling above her cot. She could feel him, watching. Most wolves would find that creepy, controlling, but she didn't feel trapped. She felt safer than she had in years. Get it together, she muttered, curling into her blanket. Alphas don't protect omegas unless they want something. Still, when sleep finally came, her nightmares were quieter than usual. The next day, she found him waiting outside with 2 coffees. I don't drink caffeine, she said suspiciously. It's hot chocolate. Talia blinked. Seriously? You think I'd hand you anything with a scent like yours and not expect your wolf to throw a tantrum if it tasted wrong? You talk a lot for someone who doesn't want anything from me. He grinned. Maybe I just like pissing you off. She sipped, then mumbled. It's good. Later that afternoon, Kellan leaned against a lamppost while Talia sat, near the sidewalk with her knees to her chest. "What happened to your pack?" he asked quietly. Talia's shoulders tensed. "Why do you care?" "Because I've seen battered wolves before. Some beg for help, some become feral. But you?" He glanced at her. "You're walking like your bones haven't healed right." She didn't answer at first. Then, "Alpha Reed, my protector." Kellan's jaw clenched. "He thought breaking bones made me obedient," she said, her voice eerily calm. "Thought chaining me up would stop my heat from spreading through the den." Kellan's fists curled at his sides. Beta Joran said I'd be useful in the breeding den once I stopped biting. Kellan didn't say a word, but Talia felt the heat from his wolf rise like a storm about to snap. "So yeah," she finished, "I ran, and I don't want pity." Kellan turned toward her. "You're not getting pity?" She frowned. "Then what am I getting?" He looked her dead in the eye. "Vengeance. If you want it." Talia didn't trust easily, but when the shelter was shut down for security concerns that evening, and she saw Grimes loitering across the street, smirking, she had a choice. Sleep outside again, or trust the unpredictable alpha who kept watching her like he already belonged to her pain. Kellan didn't pressure, just held out a helmet. "My place is secure," he said. "One night, that's it." She looked at the helmet, then at the street where Grimes leaned against a wall, flicking a lighter. Talia snatched the helmet. "If you try anything, you'll gut me in my sleep, got it?" His safe house wasn't what she expected. Clean, minimalist, and nothing about it screamed alpha den. No mounted wolf heads, no trophies, no scent of submissive wolves, just warmth, order, and a faint aroma of forest and old books. Talia sat stiffly on the couch as he handed her a towel and fresh clothes, unbranded, soft and neutral-colored. "You got a spare bathroom?" "Down the hall. Door on the right." She turned to go, then paused. "You sure I'm not just bait in a wolf trap?" Kellan smirked. "If I wanted to trap you, I wouldn't have given you the shampoo." "Fair point." When she returned, hair damp and skin flushed, Kellan's wolf nearly lost it. She smelled like clean rain and wild jasmine, and his instincts howled mine, but he kept his voice even. "Bedroom's yours." "I'll take the couch." "You don't trust me near sharp objects?" she teased dryly. "I don't trust myself to stay in that bed and not—" He stopped himself. Her eyes flicked up. "Not what?" He swallowed. "Not forget you've been hurt too much to be touched." She didn't sleep at first. Every sound in the house made her tense. Every creak brought back memories of footsteps, slaps, muffled screams. Then, hours later, Kellan's voice drifted softly from the other room. "I heard your name 2 weeks ago." Talia, awake and still, stared at the ceiling. "They said you'd escaped. Said you wouldn't last a week. That Alpha Reed put a bounty on your head." She rose slowly and walked to the doorway. Kellan was lying on the couch, eyes open. "You should have let me die," she said. He met her gaze. "I couldn't. Not after you looked up." Talia frowned. "Why do you keep saying that?" "Because most wolves in your condition keep their heads down. They avoid confrontation. They don't fight." She stepped inside the room. "You looked at me like you were already dead, but still willing to bite." He sat up slowly. "You're not prey, Talia. You're a survivor. And if you let me, I'll help you stay that way." Her wolf leaned forward. For the first time in years, she didn't feel alone. The next morning, Kellan was already up before dawn. Talia woke to the scent of coffee and something that smelled suspiciously like bacon. Her stomach growled so loudly, it echoed. She padded into the kitchen, still wearing the soft joggers and long-sleeve top he'd given her. Kellan was standing by the stove, spatula in one hand, a dish rag over his shoulder like he was some domesticated wolf. She leaned against the wall. So what's the catch? No catch, he said without turning. You need to eat. I need to cook. Simple. Do all alphas know how to fry bacon, or is this just your weird hobby? Kellan looked over his shoulder with a smirk. Only the charming ones, she snorted. I wouldn't know. Never met a charming alpha. He handed her a plate. There's a first time for everything. They ate in relative silence until Kellan finally said, If you're staying here, even for a while, there are a few rules. Talia arched a brow. I don't do rules anymore. These aren't about control. They're about safety. Big difference. She didn't argue, but her eyes stayed wary. 1. You don't leave the apartment without me or Dax. Reed's pack could have someone in the city. She gave a sharp nod. 2. You need to shift at least once every few days. You're suppressing it too long. It'll weaken you. My wolf's not ready, she said quietly. He didn't push. 3, he added, looking her dead in the eyes. You don't lie to me. If something hurts, if something triggers a memory, you tell me. I'm not a mind reader. Talia muttered. Fine. And what do I get in return? You get a bed, food, and the one alpha in this city who doesn't. Want to use you, not bad terms. Over the next few days, something strange happened. Talia started sleeping through the night. She didn't scream anymore, didn't wake up gasping. She still kept a knife under her pillow, but now she ate full meals, showered, even laughed once, when Kellan slipped on a soap bottle she left near the stairs. Was that on purpose? He'd grumbled from the floor. She sipped her water. If it was, would you press charges? He muttered. I'm pressing my spine into a new position, that's for sure. Dax showed up on day 3, knocking once before letting himself in. Was tall, lean, with a mischievous smile and eyes that saw everything. You're the famous rogue, he said, as Talia eyed him warily. Name's Dax. Beta, professional nosy bastard, mediocre cook. She raised a brow. And you just walk into people's homes uninvited? He grinned. I'm house-trained. Kellan keeps me around. Like a pet? Exactly. Talia cracked. The smallest smile. Kellan, watching the interaction from the doorway, relaxed. She didn't flinch when Dax sat beside her on the couch. Didn't shrink back when he leaned in to whisper something about Kellan's snoring. Progress. That evening, Kellan brought home fresh groceries, including ingredients for something he called wolf chili. Talia squinted suspiciously. That sounds illegal. It's got protein, spice, and heat, that's all you need to know. While he cooked, she surprised him by asking, Got any bath salts? He blinked. You're asking for something? I didn't say it was for me. Maybe your place could use some actual scent upgrades. Huh. Cute. But he got them. For her anyway. An hour later, she emerged from the bathroom wrapped in a fluffy towel, skin flushed from the heat, hair dripping down her back. Kellan dropped his spoon. I'm not parading, she said, crossing her arms. You left the laundry in the machine. He turned around quickly. Right. Sorry. Didn't realize you'd be done so fast. Or maybe your wolf did. He didn't deny it. They ate dinner together again, this time side by side on the couch. No growls, no tense silences. Just food and shared glances that said more than either dared speak aloud. The moment came sooner than expected. It was late. Kellan had gone to check in with a city patrol unit. Talia had stayed behind, curled on the couch with a book Dax lent. Her. That's when the window shattered. A masked figure lunged inside, eyes glowing gold. Reed's beta, Joran. Miss me, mutt, he snarled. Talia barely had time to shift her body before he struck. She hit the wall with a thud. Her ribs screamed. In protest. She kicked hard, catching him in the knee. Joran laughed. Still feisty. Good. I like them wild. Then a snarl split the air like a thunderclap. Kellan's wolf slammed into Joran like a missile, tearing through the air with teeth bared and murder in his eyes. Talia scrambled out of the way as the two wolves crashed into the kitchen. Plates shattered. The wall cracked. "Touch her again," Kellan growled, voice layered with his wolf, "and I'll bury your head in Reed's lap." Joran spat blood. "She belongs to the Alpha!" "She belongs to no one." Kellan's fist shattered the man's nose. Then his foot shattered the man's knee. Joran didn't walk out. He crawled. After Dax arrived and helped clean up the blood, Kellan sat beside Talia on the couch, bruised and shirtless. Talia stared at the cut on his shoulder. "You didn't have to come back." He looked at her. "You think I was gonna let that bastard touch you again?" "Most alphas would." "I'm not most alphas." She looked away. "That's what they all say." His voice dropped low. "And what do you say?" Talia stood. Unsure of her own balance, I say, "Don't make promises you can't keep. And don't look at me like that." "Like what?" "Like your wolf wants to bond." Kellan didn't move. "Maybe he does." "Don't." Her voice broke. "Don't want me just because I'm broken." "I want you because you're not," he said softly. "You've been through hell, and you're still standing. That's not weakness. That's strength." She swallowed hard. "This isn't a fated story, Kellan. I don't believe in destined mates." "Neither do I," he murmured. "But right now, my wolf doesn't care." Silence stretched between them, thick and trembling, and for the first time Talia didn't run. The morning after Joran's attack was unusually quiet. Kellan didn't hover. Talia didn't speak. She sat on the edge of the bed, wrapped in one of his flannels, her eyes distant as she stared at the wall like it whispered things only she could hear. He watched from the doorway, silently weighing his next move. "I used to count the cracks in my old cell's ceiling," she said suddenly. 43 of them. I remember them more clearly than I remember my mother's voice." Kellan stepped in, slow, careful. She didn't look at him. "Joran wasn't the first, but he liked to make sure I remembered him the most." He sat beside her without touching her. "You don't have to talk about it." "I want to." She looked at him finally. Her eyes weren't teary. They were sharp. "I want you to know what you're getting into if you keep playing savior, Kellan." He stayed quiet. Talia stood and slowly peeled the flannel off her shoulder. Scars ran across her back, some old and silvery, some newer and angry red. Bite marks, claw tears, burns. Not 1 inch of her was untouched by cruelty. Kellan stood, chest tight. "Talia, still want to mark me now?" she asked bitterly. "Still think your wolf knows what he's doing?" He reached out. She flinched, but didn't move away. He gently touched her shoulder. "Every scar tells me what you survived, not what you lost." Her breath caught. "I don't care about perfect skin. I care about you." The city wolves started talking. Word spread fast. The girl who escaped Alpha Reed wasn't hiding anymore. She had teeth, and she had Kellan Dray. Dax intercepted a group of bounty hunters near the train station. "You looking for the Omega? You better turn around." One laughed. "You threatening us, Beta?" "No," Dax said, flipping his badge. "I'm warning you. There's a difference." Meanwhile, Kellan was setting traps around his building, literal ones and political ones. He contacted the city's pack council. "This girl is under my protection," he told them. "Any wolf who touches her answers to me." "You have no claim," Councilman Pirelli countered over the call, "unless you've marked her." Kellan's jaw tightened. "So that's what it takes, huh? Claim or kill. It's the law." "Well, maybe the law's due for a restructuring." He hung up. Later that night, Talia stood on the balcony, watching the skyline. You told them I was under your protection, he nodded, leaning against the rail. I did. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. Talia was quiet a moment, then whispered, They won't stop, will they? No, Kellan said honestly. But I will. He turned to face her. No. One touches you again, not unless you want them to. She met his eyes, and for the first time, didn't look away. It was almost perfect, too perfect, and that terrified her. So when Kellan left to meet with the council again, Talia packed a bag. Quietly. Quickly. She wasn't even sure where she'd go. But the longer she stayed, the more she started wanting things, and that scared her more than Reed ever had. Freedom was safer than hope. She left a note on the kitchen counter. You're a good alpha, but I can't be your weakness. Talia Kellan. Returned to a cold apartment and a colder silence. Dax showed up within the hour, reading the note aloud while chewing sunflower seeds. She really bolted, huh? She left everything I gave her, Kellan muttered, already pulling on his boots. Except the jacket. Want me to track her? No, I'll find her myself. She doesn't want to be found. Kellan's wolf growled low. Doesn't matter. She's scared, not lost. Talia's scent was faint, but Kellan knew it like his own. He tracked her through the industrial district, then across the river. She'd taken the bus, smart, kept moving. Changed clothes. But she wasn't a ghost. Not to him. He found her in an abandoned train depot on the edge of the city, alone. Curled up in a corner, arms wrapped around her knees. You always run when things get quiet? He asked, stepping out from the shadows. Talia didn't look up. You shouldn't be here. You said that last time. I meant it this time. Then why are you still wearing my jacket? She flinched. Kellan walked over and sat, not too close. You don't have to stay with me, but you don't get to disappear without talking. I deserve that. Talia lifted her head slowly. You make me feel like I matter. You do. And that's the problem, she said. If I let myself believe that, I don't know who I am anymore. You're not the Omega Reed maid, Kellan said softly. You're not the girl who flinches when someone says her name. She stared at him. You're Talia, he continued, the wolf who stabbed her beta with a broken spoon, the one who makes my wolf roll over and beg. Silence. Then she whispered, You really tracked me all this way? Of course, he said. You left your scent on purpose. She blinked. No, I didn't. Yes, you did. Kellan smiled. You wanted me to find you. You just didn't want to admit it. She swallowed hard, and this time, when he held out his hand, she took it. Back at the safe house, Talia stood in the doorway of her bedroom while Kellan poured himself a drink. You didn't try to make me stay, she said. Nope. You could have. I'm not interested in keeping wolves in cages, Kellan said, even if I want them to stay. Talia shifted her weight. You could have marked me, claimed me. Then no one could touch me. I'd rather die than mark you just to protect you. Why? Because then you'd never know if you stayed because you wanted to. Or because I made it easier. Talia stepped closer. I could leave again, she whispered. You wouldn't stop me. No. But I'm still here. Kellan set down the glass and turned toward her. Why? He asked. She didn't have a good answer, so she kissed him. Not out of fear, not desperation, but choice. It wasn't a mate bond kiss. It wasn't heated or hungry. It was a promise. Talia pulled back and said softly, I don't trust fate. Kellan cupped her cheek. Good. Trust me. She did. For now. The quiet between Kellan and Talia didn't last. By the end of the week, word of Joran's broken jaw and bruised ego had reached every pack elder and bounty hunter network in the region. Worse, Councilman Pirelli had summoned Kellan for a closed-door meeting with the City Pack Council. "Are they planning to reprimand you?" Talia asked, as Kellan adjusted the collar of his dress shirt, something she wasn't used to seeing on him. "They're planning to remind me who has power in this city." "Do they?" Kellan turned, a glint of humor in his eyes. "Let's just say they think they do." Dax showed up just before Kellan left, holding 2 cups of takeout coffee and a grin. "I brought backup," he told Talia, handing her the sweeter one. "Your alpha's going into the lion's den. I figured I'd hang around in case you wanted updates or to panic together." "I don't panic," she said, sipping. "You do that brow-furrowy thing, though. It's adorable." She didn't smile, but she didn't growl either. Progress. At the council chambers, Kellan stood before a semicircle of alphas and betas draped in tailored suits, smelling faintly of power and fear. Councilman Pirelli adjusted his tie. "Alpha Dray, your report of protecting the rogue known as Talia, formerly under Alpha Reed, is concerning." "She's not a rogue anymore," Kellan replied coolly. "She's under my protection." "She hasn't been claimed," Pirelli said. "You haven't marked her. There's no formal mate bond." "Are you suggesting I brand her like cattle?" The room bristled. Another councilman, Beta Marcus, cleared his throat. Alpha Reed submitted a formal request for retrieval. "He claims she's his stolen property." "She's not property," Kellan snapped. "She's a survivor of systematic abuse." "Without a mark, she has no status," Pirelli pressed. "Our hands are tied." "Then cut the damn rope." Kellan growled. Silence fell. And that's when he realized they didn't care about justice. Only about order. While Kellan stood before the council, Talia paced. "She's making grooves in your floor," Dax muttered, lounging on the couch and playing a card game with himself. "I'm not nervous," she said. "Nope, you just like walking in stressed-out circles." Talia's wolf was on edge, pacing just beneath her skin. The idea of Kellan being judged for helping her felt wrong. She went to the window, staring down at the street below. People bustled, horns blared, but it all felt distant. "What happens if the council rules against him?" she asked. Dax sobered. "They won't. Not if they're smart. And if they're not, then we burn the system to the ground." She looked at him. He wasn't smiling. By the time Kellan returned, she was already waiting at the door. He didn't say anything, just leaned against the frame, tie loose, shirt wrinkled, jaw tight. "That bad?" she asked. "They didn't say yes or no, just warned me that any further violence from you or to you puts both of us on probation." "I'm a threat now." "You always were," he said with a faint smirk. They just finally noticed. That night, she dreamt of the day she fought off Reed's enforcer with nothing but a jagged piece of mirror. In the dream, she wasn't the one bleeding. When she woke up, she whispered, "I'm not prey." And for the first time, her wolf believed her. It started as a headache, then a heat wave. Talia tossed in bed, her skin burning, her body humming with something ancient and unruly. Her wolf clawed at her insides, not out of pain, but need. She threw the covers off, panting. No, not now. The bond was trying to form. Kellan was in the living room, halfway through a glass of whiskey when he felt it, like fire rolling across his spine. He was on his feet instantly. He burst into her room. "Talia." She stood by the window, flushed, eyes glowing faint gold, lips trembling. "You feel it too," she whispered. "Don't you?" He nodded. "Your wolf. She's syncing with mine." "This isn't normal. We didn't mark." "We didn't. You don't need a mark when the bond wants to form naturally." Her breath hitched. But I didn't choose this. I didn't either. They stood there, both breathing hard, tethered by something neither of them had asked for. Kellan took a step closer. I won't force it. If you need distance. Her fingers caught his shirt. Don't go, she said softly. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tight as her wolf finally calmed. The next morning, Talia didn't pretend it hadn't happened. She walked into the kitchen, poured 2 cups of coffee, and slid one across the counter toward Kellan like they'd done this 100 times before. He took it without speaking. I'm not freaking out, she said. Should I be? She smirked. You're an alpha. Aren't you supposed to be territorial and overprotective? I am, he said. But not when it comes to you. With you, I ask. She stared at him, expression unreadable. Then, so ask. Kellan set the cup down slowly. Do you want the bond to continue forming? Talia hesitated, then nodded once. Kellan's wolf surged, triumphant, but Kellan stayed composed. Then we do this on your terms. You keep saying that, she said, because I mean it. She stepped closer. You've never hit me, never growled at me, never told me to heel or submit. Doesn't that make you weak? No, he said, it makes me yours. That night they lay side by side in her bed, not touching, not speaking, just breathing in rhythm. The bond buzzed between them, quiet but insistent. Talia turned on her side. Do you think your wolf wants to mark me? Yes, Kellan said simply, but he'll wait. He knows you're not ready. She rolled onto her back. I keep having dreams. He looked at her. Nightmares. No. Worse. Dreams where I'm happy. Why's that worse? Because I wake up and feel like a traitor to the girl who was locked in that cage. Like I don't deserve this. Kellan reached out, brushed her fingers with his. You do. I don't want to be marked out of pity. You won't be. I don't want to be protected like I'm weak. You're not. Then why does part of me still flinch when you look at me like I'm yours? Kellan's voice was barely a whisper. Because they marked you with pain, not love. Talia's eyes glistened. And I'll spend every day proving I'm not. Like them, he said. She turned toward him. I believe you. Then she added, quieter. And when I am ready, I'll mark you first. Dax showed up at the safe house with blood on his sleeve. Don't panic, he said as soon as he stepped in. It's not mine. Technically. Talia was at the kitchen table, nursing a mug of tea. She straightened. Whose blood is it? Some idiot from Reed's camp. Tall guy. Blonde. Tried to jump me outside the city border checkpoint. Kellan stepped out from the back hallway. Reed's men crossed into city territory. Yep, Dax confirmed, and he didn't come quietly. You kill him? Unfortunately, no, he's breathing, barely. I turned him over to the enforcers. Kellan cursed under his breath. Talia rose from her chair. Why now? He's been quiet for weeks, because the council's losing patience, Kellan answered grimly, and Reed smells blood in the water. Later that night, a council courier showed up with a sealed letter. Kellan opened it at the kitchen counter, while Talia waited silently nearby. The message was short. Final warning. If the rogue female is not claimed or surrendered by the next full moon, Alpha Reed has permission to retrieve her by force. Talia's breath hitched. They gave him a deadline. They gave us a deadline, Kellan said, voice hard, which means they never planned to keep her safe. He looked up. They're forcing our hand. You can't mark me just because of a deadline, Talia said, pacing the living room. Her voice was tight, her movements tense. That's not how this works. I'm not going to, Kellan said calmly. But we need to start preparing for what happens when Reed makes his move. I'm not running again. You might have to. No. Her voice cracked. I won't live in a cage. Not again. I just started breathing. Kellan stood slowly. Then we fight. Dax, seated in the armchair, raised an eyebrow. With what army? Kellan gave him a meaningful look. We don't need an army. We just need her. Talia blinked. Me? You're the proof. The reason Reed loses. Dax leaned forward. The council let him abuse Omegas for years because they never lived long enough to speak. But you did, Kellan said softly. You escaped. You survived. And if you speak out publicly, they'll have no choice but to strip his claim. Talia's mouth went dry. You want me to tell the world what he did to me? I want you to burn him to the ground. Dax set it up with a private reporter he trusted, an ex-Gamma Wolf named Mara Kane, who ran a digital journal focused on rogue survival and pack reform. They met at a secure rooftop cafe downtown. Kellan stayed close but let Talia sit alone. With Mara, I can stop at any time, Mara said gently, setting her recorder on the table. You're not obligated to share more than you're comfortable with. Talia nodded. No questions off limits. Mara raised a brow. You're sure? Talia's eyes gleamed. Ask me what it felt like. The interview lasted an hour. She spoke of the chains, the forced heat suppressants, the isolation, the way Reed's beta called her it instead of her name, the failed escape attempts, the breeding den. She didn't cry. Mara did. When it was over, Talia walked back to the car where Kellan waited. He didn't ask if she was okay. He knew she wasn't. Instead, he opened the door and pulled her into a quiet, strong embrace. Said everything, she murmured. I know. And I didn't flinch once. I know, she pulled back. What if it's not enough? Then we make it enough. The article dropped 3 days later. I was never your Omega. Talia's story. Byline, Mara Kane, Wolves Without Borders. It spread like wildfire. Hundreds of comments, thousands of shares. Survivors came forward. Ex-members of Reed's pack confirmed the conditions. One even submitted a recorded video of a former enforcer breaking down in tears. By sunset, the council called an emergency assembly. Talia paced the apartment while Dax read the comments aloud from his phone. You're not alone. I was. Locked in the same den. I thought I imagined the pain. Damn, Talia. You cracked open the whole system. She didn't reply. She was too busy staring at the newsfeed showing Alpha Reed's pack house being closed off by city guards. They won't stop him, she said. No, Kellan agreed. But they will delay him. She looked up at him. So what do we do now? Kellan's eyes darkened. We prepare for war. Kellan took her to the rooftop. It was dusk, the wind sharp and fresh. Below them the city glowed. He handed her a blanket. It's time. Talia held it but didn't wrap herself. I haven't shifted in months, she whispered. I know. What if my wolf doesn't come out? What if it's still afraid? Kellan stepped back, giving her space. Then, we wait, but she's in there. And she's stronger than you think. Talia closed her eyes. Her skin prickled. Her breathing slowed. She dug her nails into her palms, then let go. Her bones ached. Her back arched. Heat roared through her spine. And then she shifted. Her wolf form stood in the moonlight, lean but proud. Her coat a mix of ash-grey and white streaks like lightning scars. Kellan shifted too, his black wolf towering beside her. He didn't move forward, just bowed his head in quiet respect. Talia stepped beside him, then lifted her head and howled. Not a cry for help, a challenge, and the city answered. The rooftop shift changed everything. Talia didn't sleep that night, neither did Kellan. They lay side by side in their wolves' forms for hours, silent, letting instincts do what words couldn't. Her wolf had finally stretched, uncoiled from trauma, and reconnected with the world. And Kellan's had simply curled protectively around her, never once trying to dominate or lead. By sunrise, Talia shifted back, her body shaking but not from fear. She was finally awake. Later that morning, Kellan made eggs, while Dax read the latest. Council notice allowed at the kitchen counter. They're meeting again. Another emergency session. Kellan didn't look up from the stove. Let me guess, they're afraid of the backlash. They're afraid of her, Dax said, jerking his chin toward Talia. She leaned against the fridge, hair still damp from her shower. Good, let them be afraid. I was. Kellan placed a plate of eggs in front of her. We need allies. You have Dax. I need more than a sarcastic beta with a badge and a strong jawline. Dax raised his hands. Rude, but fair, Talia considered. What about the rogue den in the East District? The one that refused council recognition? Kellan blinked. You know about that? I lived there for a week before I got caught. They take in wolves who've been rejected by both rogues and packs. Kellan nodded. It's a start. Talia's voice hardened. If they see me walk in, not as prey but as a wolf, they'll... Listen. The East District den was tucked beneath an old bookstore, masked by human scent and illusion spells. The wolves inside were lean, sharp-eyed and scarred. None of them smiled when Kellan and Talia entered. One even growled. Talia didn't. Flinch. Where's Gracie? She asked. A scrappy Delta stepped forward. What do you want with her? I want her to know Reed's empire is about to burn. Gracie turned out to be older than Talia remembered. Her hair was fully silver now, her eyes dimmer, but her voice, still pure steel. You survived, she said, seated cross-legged on a torn velvet cushion. Talia nodded. Gracie looked her over. And you came back marked? No mark, Talia said. Just purpose. Gracie arched a brow. Even better. They met for hours, Gracie, Talia, Kellan and the den leaders. Plans were drawn, escape routes outlined, numbers tallied, supplies gathered. Some refused to get involved, most didn't, and when they parted, Gracie took Talia's hand. Burn him slow, sweetheart. Make sure he knows it was you. That night, Kellan's safe house became a war room. Maps, phones, encrypted tablets, radios. Talia helped Dax set up a rotating patrol network around the building. Reed's men won't attack during the day, Dax said. Too many cameras, too many humans. Talia rolled her eyes. So they'll wait until it's dark and quiet and I'm brushing my teeth. Exactly. The attack came sooner than expected. 2 nights later, Kellan barely had time to throw Talia behind the couch before the first explosion rocked the apartment. A flashbang. Then the windows shattered. 4 wolves, Reed's enforcers, burst through. The smoke. They were masked, armored and savage. But Talia was faster now. She shifted mid-roll, her grey-white wolf leaping over the couch and straight at the nearest attacker's throat. Kellan's black wolf tore into another, slamming him through the dining table. Dax arrived from the stairwell, blades in hand and grinning like a lunatic. Oh, finally, something fun. It was messy, bloody. But by the time the smoke cleared, 2 of Reed's wolves were down, one unconscious, and one limping away, howling back to his master. Talia shifted back, panting, body bruised, but eyes bright. I didn't freeze, she said softly. Kellan shifted beside her, still half-shifted, his voice gravel. You led. The council called again. This time, they weren't behind closed doors. Pirelli stood on the steps of the courthouse, press cameras flashing as he read the public statement. Due to ongoing violence and instability caused by unclaimed Omega, Talia and Alpha Kellan Dray, we hereby revoke Dray's standing in the City Pack Council. All protection claims are null and void. The reporters went wild. One shouted, Is Talia now fair game for Alpha Reed? Another, Is the council endorsing bounty hunting? Pirelli didn't answer. He just walked away. Kellan stood beside Talia in the crowd, face unreadable. You're officially rogue again, Dax muttered beside her. I never stop being, she said. Kellan turned toward them. We do this on our own now. No politics, Dax said. Just claws. Talia's jaw clenched. Then let's make this fast. That evening, Gracie sent a courier with a gift, a box wrapped in old flannel. Inside was a satellite phone and a severed ear. A note attached read, Reed sent a scout to recruit my den. He won't be sending another. Talia stared at the bloody ear for a long moment. Kellan said nothing. I used to be scared of him, she murmured. Used to. Believe he was too strong, too brutal, too untouchable. She looked up. But he bleeds like any other alpha. Dax lifted his glass. To making him bleed again.
Kellan placed a hand on Talia's shoulder. We end this, on our terms, she nodded. For every wolf who never got to fight back, we end it. And the moon rose over a city that no longer feared the girl who once ran. The next day dawned grey and tense. Talia hadn't spoken much since the courier left.
She sat on the window ledge, wrapped in one of Kellan's old jackets, staring out at the street like it might turn into a battlefield at any moment. And maybe it would. Behind her, Dax paced, phone in hand. Rogues in the east are ready. Gracie says her wolves are standing by. They've got Molotovs, makeshift armor, and is that a homemade crossbow? Kellan glanced over. She never did play fair. Inside the apartment, Talia finally broke the silence. I keep hearing the cage. Kellan turned from the table. What cage? The one from Reed's pack. The one they locked us in when we mouthed off or flinched too slow. She didn't look at him. Sometimes I hear the click of the lock when I close my eyes. He crossed the room, crouched in front of her. You're not in a cage. I know. But your wolf still hears it. She met his gaze. What if I freeze again? What if I get us all killed? You didn't freeze when they blew up our windows. You didn't freeze when you shifted in front of the council. That was adrenaline. No, he said softly. That was you. The call came at noon. Kellan picked up with a growl already. In his throat, the voice on the other end was silk and smoke. Well, I was starting to think you were avoiding me. Kellan's jaw clenched. Reed. Hello, Alpha Dray. Or should I say, former Alpha. What do you want? Oh, I think we both know what this is about. You've got something that belongs to me. Kellan's fist tightened around the phone. She was never yours. Reed chuckled. Then I guess we'll let the wolves decide. Meet me at Red Hollow Ridge, sunset. Bring Talia. Let her choose. Kellan's voice dropped. If you touch her again, I'll tear your spine out through your throat. No need for threats, Reed said coolly. We're all civilized alphas here. He hung up. Dax swore from across the room. Red Hollow? That place is cursed. It's where Reed hosts his alpha trials, Kellan muttered. It's symbolic. Ancient territory. Talia entered, towel drying her hair. I heard the name. We're going, aren't we? You don't have to, Kellan said. I want to. He met her eyes. You sure? I've spent my whole life running from him. I think it's time I ran at him. They arrived just before sunset. Red Hollow Ridge lived up to its name, a wide stretch of rocky forest ringed with ancient oaks, their trunks blackened by old fires. The air was charged, like the land remembered blood. Reed stood at the center of the clearing, flanked by 6 wolves. Talia recognized 2, Joran with his crooked jaw, and Elric, a vicious delta who used to patrol the cages. She tensed. Kellan growled low beside her. You say the word and they don't leave here breathing. I'm not scared, she whispered. But I am angry. Reed stepped forward, tall and polished in a crisp white shirt and tailored pants. He looked more like a politician than a warlord, but his eyes were poison. "Talia," he purred, "you look radiant. City life suits you." She didn't answer. "Come now," he continued, voice dripping charm. "Don't I even get a hello from my little Omega?" Kellan stepped in front of her. "Say her name again and I'll gut you." Reed's smile sharpened. "You think you've won, don't you? But the council's abandoned you. You have no pack, no standing." "I have her," Kellan said. "That's more than you ever had." Then Reed raised his voice. "Let her decide." "That's what you've been preaching, haven't you, Alpha Dray? Freedom, consent?" He looked at Talia. "Then let her speak." The clearing went silent. Talia stepped forward. Alone. She faced Reed head-on. "You want me to choose?" He smirked. "Yes." "Then I choose me. I choose to never belong to anyone again. Not to you, not to a council, not to any wolf who thinks my worth comes from submission." Reed's face tightened. Talia turned to Kellan. "But if I'm going to run with someone, it'll be with the wolf who never caged me." Kellan's wolf howled. Reed snarled. "So be it." His enforcers surged forward. Kellan met them head-on, shifting mid-charge, his black wolf colliding with Joran in a fury of claws and teeth. Dax and Gracie's wolves burst from the trees moments later, the rogue den joining the fray like fire through dry brush. Talia stood at the center of the chaos, shifting smoothly, her ash-grey wolf moving with deadly purpose. She tackled Elric, slamming him into the dirt. He clawed at her face. She snapped his forearm in two. Joran lunged at her next, but Kellan intercepted, dragging him into a tree with such force the trunk cracked. Dax ducked a swing from another enforcer, stabbed him clean in the thigh and shouted, "Now this is a party!" Reed watched from a boulder, unimpressed. Then he moved. Fast, he charged Talia from behind. But her wolf felt him. She spun, shifted back, caught him mid-leap, and stabbed him in the gut with the blade Kellan gave her weeks ago. Reed staggered. Blood bloomed on his white shirt. Talia stood over him, panting, blade slick with his blood. "No more cages." Reed collapsed. Kellan reached her seconds later, breathless. "You okay?" She nodded. "Is he alive?" she muttered. "Let him rot in a prison this time. Let him fear." By morning, Red Hollow Ridge was cleared. Reed and his surviving wolves were taken by rogue enforcers and handed over to an independent tribunal. The council had lost all public favor. Mara's article was now global. Omegas from every territory were marching, testifying, fighting. The system cracked, and Talia stood on the rooftop of the old safe house, wrapped in Kellan's arms, watching the sunrise. "You did it," he whispered. "You brought down an alpha." "No," she said. "We did. You gave me the space to become someone who could." She looked up at him. "You still want to mark me?" He smiled. "Only if you bite first." Talia grinned. "Careful what you ask for." That morning, she marked him, not because she had to, not because she was afraid, but because she finally knew what freedom tasted like, and she wanted to share it. The rooftop was quiet. No council threats. No enforcers at the door, no bombs hidden beneath windows, just Talia and Kellan, wrapped in morning light and the fading adrenaline of victory. She leaned into his chest, cheek pressed to his heartbeat. "It feels unreal." "What does?" "Not needing to look over my shoulder." Kellan kissed the top of her head. "You looked forward instead." "That's what brought him down." She smiled faintly. "I still can't believe you let me bite you first." He chuckled. "You think I'm alpha enough to take that from you? I think you're smart enough not to die on that hill." Later, that evening, Dax found them in the living room, still barefoot, still half-tangled in blankets. "Council dropped a statement," he announced, flopping into a chair. "Guess who's out of office?" Kellan arched a brow. Pirelli? Pirelli, Marcus, that whole rusted branch of Alphas. Gone. New leadership vote in 2 weeks. Talia blinked. Who's stepping in? Dax smirked. Gracie's been asked to represent rogue interests. Talia laughed. She's going to burn them down with tea and attitude. Exactly. Oh, and the bounty system. Suspended indefinitely. Reed's supporters are being audited for Omega trafficking. Kellan looked at her. You're not a ghost anymore. Talia nodded, quiet. Then I guess I can stop hiding. Talia returned to the East Den on her own. Kellan didn't argue. He just kissed her and said, "Come home when you're ready." The den hadn't changed much. Still dim, still cramped, still alive in ways no pack house ever was. Gracie met her. At the door, a cigarette in one hand and a cup of whiskey in the other. Well, if it isn't the girl who threw a knife at destiny and hit it between the eyes. Talia hugged her, hard. Inside, the younger wolves stared at her like a legend. Some touched her arm gently, as if to check she was real. I read your words every night. One girl whispered. I thought I was crazy, but you made it feel survivable. Another handed her a tattered scarf. You left this. You should keep it. Talia held it to her chest. I didn't come back to be remembered, she said softly. I came to help you forget. They blinked. Forget that you were ever someone's property. Forget that your body was a battlefield. Forget that survival means silence. She met their eyes. And remember that you're a wolf. Back in the city, Kellan remodeled the safe house. He tore down the reinforced doors, dismantled the perimeter, traps, and painted the walls warmer colors. Talia came home 2 weeks later to find the kitchen full of fresh herbs, the windows thrown open, and Dax wearing an apron that said Alpha Chef. I'm making omelettes, he announced. Because you're back, and Kellan doesn't know what seasoning is. Kellan muttered, I know what salt is. That's not seasoning, it's a warning sign. Talia laughed until she cried. That night she and Kellan curled up on the eat-up couch, wrapped in blankets and each other. I think we should name it, she said. Name what? This place. It's not a hideout anymore, it's a home. Kellan thought for a moment. How about the den? Talia smiled. Perfect. Then she looked at him. You really meant it, didn't you? That you'd never cage me. Meant every word. Then mark me again, she whispered. He paused. You already marked me, Talia. I want yours too. He did. Not as a claim, but as a vow. The tribunal was public. Council chambers overflowing with packs, rogues, press, and even humans who suspected the wolves were more than whispered myths. Reed was wheeled in, chained, pale, jaw still crooked from Kellan's earlier blow. He glared at Talia from the witness stand. She didn't flinch. When it was her turn to testify, she stood tall in a black coat and grey scarf, the colour of her wolf. Councilwoman Ayana, a new appointee, addressed her gently. You may speak freely, Talia. Cleared her throat. My name is Talia. I was born into a pack that promised protection, and instead offered prisons. She paused. I was told my only worth was in my obedience, my silence, my heat cycle. But I lived, I ran, and I chose. She looked straight at Reed. You caged wolves who could have ruled beside you. You called fear loyalty. But the truth, you were afraid of us. You were afraid of what Omegas become when they stop begging. Gasps. Whispers, Talia finished simply. And I hope that fear follows you until your last breath. Reed was sentenced to life in isolation. No access to pack. No claim rights. A traitor by law, stripped of his alpha title. The crowd howled. Justice, for once, was not just symbolic. Spring came. Talia walked the park trails in the city without a hood, without a coat, without a weapon tucked in her boot. Children laughed. Birds sang. Somewhere, a rogue wolf played a guitar. She met Kellan at the fountain. You were late, he teased. I had to stop by the den. One of the girls passed her first heat without suppressants. She said it didn't feel like death. Because now they feel safe, because now they feel seen. They walked hand in hand, past human crowds who didn't know they were watching wolves walk freely among them. Kellan glanced over. Still want to run? Talia grinned. Every day, but this time, I want someone to run with. They shifted, at the edge of the park where no one could see, and took off across the woods in full sprint, 2 wolves side by side, not hunted, not hiding. Home,